My name is Daniel Dunlap, and this is my reflection for November 28th. This week's reflection is about Langerick and Hurst's arguments on abortions. Langerick claims that there are two traditional abortion views. The people who think that the fetus doesn't have moral status until birth, and those who argue that they have strong moral status on conception. He uses the potentiality principle to lean towards the argument that fetuses have a strong moral status on conception. He says, and I quote, "If in the normal course of its development a being will acquire a person's claim to life, then by virtue of that fact it already has some claim to life." He claims that if at some point the being will acquire a person's claim to life, then it already attains a claim or a right to life. I think this is an interesting point, and to me makes a lot of sense. If one will eventually have, a right to life, then it already holds some sort, of right to live, his or her life. I see it in the way that all life matters, both close to being born and on conception, equally. I believe that this particular argument of Langerack, that I talked about works, and the implications it would have towards the ethics of abortion would be that abortion would be unethical, since the unborn would hold a claim to life, whether it be on conception or right before he or she being born. Now, Hurst claims that abortion should never be taken lightly, both deep into the pregnancy nor early on. She does claim that at times it's ethical if you have a very good reason, but you must have a very good reason or else it would be unethical. She claims that if one takes this decision lightly or without thinking through it, it is unethical or ignorant, and I agree with Hurst on this point. Another interesting part is when she mentioned her gradualist argument, an argument which claims that the moral status of the fetus increases over the course of the pregnancy. On this particular point, I disagree with her. I believe that the fetus should be given the same amount of respect from the beginning of the pregnancy or from conception, as they are given towards the end of the pregnancy, right before they're born. I would say that it would be unjust to look at a fetus at the early stage and not give it the same respect as some would at the later stages of the pregnancy. I also found her point, which states that this applies to both sexes and not just to women, because a lot of men aren't really worried about that, and I think it's both important for the woman and man, to be involved in this decision, or I just think it's important. Like I said, the fetus is formed from both the man and the woman, so it is imperative that both take this as serious as possible, and that, it also applies to both, like she mentioned. Thank you.